Why are they using the History Channel font though?
Hey y'all, welcome back. I wrote an elaborate bit to acknowledge the fact that this is my first time on camera, but you know what? I'll say it, not a fan of looking at myself on camera. And it's not that I think I'm uggo, don't get me wrong.
I'm feeling a light to decent 6 on this thing.
I just, by principle, refuse to spend more time looking at my face in the editing room than I have to, so we're just gonna move on to the video. So y'all know Hamilton, right? That one musical every theater kid you knew sung so much you decided to never check it out? Well, that musical's creator, as well as the man who beatboxed feminism rap with Emma Watson, that exact fella, earlier in his career, made a better musical? The name of said superior musical is 21 Chump Street.
I guess straight A's, man!
Completely unrelated to his masterpiece, another musical he made was In the Heights, which is also better than Hamilton. And after a long, Miss Rona-riddled release schedule, the movie finally dropped this week. In the Heights is directed by Jon Chu, an up-and-coming filmmaker known most famously for his work on Crazy Rich Asians and G.I. Joe Retaliation. The cast features a bunch of superstars: Lin-Manuel Miranda, who just came off Mary Poppins 2, Stephanie Beatrice from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and In the Heights stars Anthony Ramos, is known perhaps most famously for being a part of Hamilton on Broadway, but he was also in Troll 2, so I mean, that's a sign of success right there. On top of all that, I'm seeing a lot of Oscar buzz for this movie, mainly because people are starting to wonder, will this be like the one good movie musical? So the question ya boy is looking to answer in this video, does the movie live up to the hype? Let's get into it. At its core, In the Heights is a movie about a neighborhood in transition, home to many generations of various Caribbean and South American immigrants. Washington Heights finds not only its physical space, but cultural space increasingly encroached upon. Local businesses are getting priced out, and are either moving or having to shut down. You also have a variety of characters struggling with cultural identity. Some yearn for the homeland they lived in as kids. Other characters feel that New York City is their home, yet find large swaths of America unwilling to accept them as American citizens. And other characters who ventured outward struggle to know what home even is. The movie, in a sense, is an ensemble show, dedicating a lot of time to these various stories throughout this local neighborhood. And we're allowed to see a variety of perspectives, ways of dealing with, and solutions for how to adapt to an ever-changing world. So if that story, mixed with some fun song and dance numbers, feels right up your alley, I'd go ahead and say to give this a shot, regardless of what I'm about to say in the rest of the review. But as I get more into the review part of this video, I do want to make clear, the movie has more good than bad. It has a lovely visual style, both in the way the camera functions and in the color palette of the movie. It has a really fun energy throughout, while also knowing how to pull us in and really focus on the more serious moments. We simply have to stan a balanced tone. Also, the movie has fantastic costume design, which isn't something I normally talk about. It all feels supernatural to the neighborhood, the characters have very distinct styles, and I love the ways that the costume design generally merges these kind of like New York vibes with the styles or merch from their old home countries. Is merch the word I'm looking for there? Something about that feels off. Aside from that, the cast is great. In a movie that includes characters dancing on the side of a building, don't you worry, we'll get to that later. The characters all feel pretty believable and grounded. Their storylines, on top of the larger socio-political implications of their stories, feel immediate, relevant, personal, and empathetic, which really is a feat, especially considering some of the wackier shit in this movie. So kudos to the whole cast for making the story feel so uniquely grounded, but especially gotta give props to my boy Usnavi here, who's like the one character you really have to get right for this movie to work. There are so many great subtleties to his performance. He shows the weight of his internal conflict well, like the way that he's torn between his personal dreams and the responsibilities he feels to his loved ones back home. And this might sound like a weird thing to highlight, but he's got a really fun take on awkwardness in his romantic scenes. Like in every version of this musical I've seen or heard, Usnavi is awkward, but I've only ever seen it in this very, like, comical, goofy kind of way, like almost slapsticky. But again, going back to the grounded point, it's a really earnest kind of awkwardness here. Like he'll just be talking with Vanessa and he just has this like lovely awkward laugh instead of being like all in all, I found his performance completely believable, which, and this cannot go overstated, does a lot to sell the core of the movie. Speaking of the cast, the music in the movie is wonderful. It doesn't change from the Broadway iteration much, but the music was always really fucking good. And the movie, to my ear, doesn't do anything to ruin the experience. Like, it doesn't, I don't know, add in a drum track to a musical that was famous for, up until that point, just being string instruments, you know. Nothing awful like that. Lastly, I think the one point casual moviegoers would be interested to hear about in a movie musical review is how it transitions to the silver screen. Because sometimes that's been a bit of an awkward process.
I can dance how he dances too.
Let me see.
Like most musicals, In the Heights is pretty heightened in its treatment of reality. Yes, I just realized I said the word height twice in a sentence. No, I'm not going to change it. Since audiences often have a more literal, realistic relationship to film, In the Heights, like most movie musicals, has to try to find a way to internally justify its theatrics. And to its credit, unlike other movie musicals, In the Heights actually tries a couple different things to suspend our disbelief. First off, at a couple points during the movie, in place of some elaborate dance number, they have montages of people in their day-to-day lives. Namely, in the opening number. In a staged version of this song, you could expect people to be flipping and spinning around, maybe there's some fancy ballet moves, and that comes in at the end of the song. But for the majority of the song, the lyrics are sung over images of working class people doing their day-to-day thing. For some, that's the process of getting up in the morning, and for others, that's the act of doing work itself. Which I think not only bridges the gap of what an audience is willing to believe in a movie by taking a dance number and turning it into a more relatable sequence of events, but it also heightens the working class themes of the movie, which, to me, elevates it above any sort of lame excuse into being just a really strong choice. On top of that, they, to a lesser extent, have a couple other songs in the movie where, instead of a elaborate dance number, there's, let's say, lively action. Like these characters in the salon, who, while they're not dancing, a thing which might draw us out of the audience, they are being a little hyperbolic in the way they're trying to listen into the gossip and all that, but, because it is removing itself from a dance number, helps to suspend an audience's disbelief. In my notes over here, I wrote the phrase, disbelief. What about dat belief? And I don't know why I thought that was an important thing to write down, but I just wanted to share this with y'all so you can know I'm a fraud. In general though, the movie's main tool to suspend our disbelief, their main way to try to get us to chillax, man, is a framing device. The movie opens on Usnavi telling a wild story to a couple kids on the beach. The idea here being that because he's telling a story, it's likely he'll elaborate some of the details at some point, and that, audience members, is where this wacky dance stuff is coming into play. It's not real. Don't you worry. This isn't real. Don't walk away from our movie. Please, it's all just it's a memory. A lot of movie musicals try to use this kind of a framing device, and I think it mostly works here. I wish they spent a little bit more time on it. As it stands right now, it's a little loose and it borders on feeling like an excuse, but it certainly wasn't the worst framing device like this I've seen in a movie musical. My main problem is that even within the context of this being a story told to little kids and the details being, you know, elaborated and all that, it still jumps the shark. Like, there's this really sweet song, When the Sun Goes Down, where two of our main characters are talking about how the next few months of their long-distance relationship are going to be tough, but that it's going to be worth it in the end. Really sweet stuff, one of the many highlights off the track list. But John Chu chose to set this intimate, romantic ballad scaling the side of a building like they're Spider-Man? Like, your boy can buy dancing, that's fine. even if it's during an intimate song, and even if I myself would not dance with my partner in real life, I can suspend my disbelief for that sort of a thing. And that's a simple enough concept where I think most audience members would also buy into that. But dancing on the side of a building? I don't know, dude, that's just a bit much. And it comes out of nowhere too. Like they're just chilling on the fire escape singing to each other, and then Benny hops up and they continue like nothing's wrong. It's really weird and jarring, feels out of place for the rest of the movie. The other problem here is that, by the nature of trying to capture the landscape, the scene holds on mostly wide shots, which, on top of the nonsensical staging it on a side of a building, it rips the song of the intimacy by literally pulling us away, and I think it really ruins the beauty of the song. And that's maybe my only big critique with the movie. I'm not sure how well, for me it worked fine, but I'm not sure if for a general audience, the internal logic of the musical is sold through the framing device. So I guess what I'm saying is, if I could make up a guy out there who likes all of these story points I've talked about, likes the people involved, likes the cast, think it looks pretty, but is really, really concerned about the movie's internal logic, maybe this movie isn't for you. Hey folks, Editing Piley here. Yes, I'm using the drawings for this bit. Yes, it is because I'm too lazy to get presentable to film again. Something that came to mind in the days leading up to the film's release that I wanted to give time for folks from the community to speak their piece about was the relative lack of dark-skinned, Afro Latin American actors in the major roles of this movie. Being a non-Hispanic, pale-faced lad, I wanted to give some time for the folks from these communities to speak up and see if it was, in fact, an issue for them, or if perhaps I had come out the gate saying this representation was off, maybe the communities involved would have disagreed, and I didn't want to speak for those communities. But in the days following the movie's release, it is clear from what I've read that a lot of folks from these communities are, I guess, bummed, to say the least, that there wasn't better representation here. There was this great thread on Twitter that really dove into exactly why it's a shame that the movie didn't execute this side of casting better. So go feel free to read that, and I'll try to link some other articles down below if you're wondering what the people impacted by this casting choice have to say about the matter. Just wanted to make that known in the event that any of you were looking forward to this as an audience member, and if the fact that this representation is lacking in the movie is a deciding factor between whether or not you do watch it or don't watch it. So do with that as you will, and with that, let's get back to the conclusion. In general though, I think the movie is solid. Great overall production, wonderful mix of tones, wonderful cast, fun song and dance numbers, sad romantic moments. All in all, it delivers a well-rounded, solid experience. Now that's the general reviewer in me. The theater kid in me is really intrigued by how the movie adapts the play to the big screen, but I think those points are a little bit too niche for a review like this, and I think they deserve to be their own well thought out video essay. So if that interests you, be sure to toss me a subscription, yo. But yeah, in summary, good experience. I would definitely recommend. I would even give it 2 of these bad boys up if I was forced to choose between 1 thumbie or 2 thummies. So, and I can't believe I didn't mention where to watch it earlier. If this sounds like the movie for you, you can watch it on HBO Max, or maybe pirate it. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to toss this video a like and subscribe down below. But if you really want to help your boy out, you can join me over on Patreon. Patrons get early access to every single video, exclusive voting control over the direction of this channel, and have access to exclusive behind-the-scenes content, which includes a series I'll be starting up soon of short, rant-like segments. So, if that sort of thing sounds interesting to you, if you enjoy the sound of my voice, for some weird reason, I know I don't, be sure to join me over on Patreon, great sell. And if you join Piley Benton's Biggest Boys tier, you get your name read off at the end of every video. Whoa, what a privilege. Zoth, Sean Locke, Revo Pregame, Nillik Elites, Floofpants, and Cameron Fordo. So if you want to hear your lovely Christian name at the end of every video, be sure to join this specific tier. Thanks much, everyone, and I'll see you next time.